In today's video, I'm looking at the Sonder Sedona, which is their gravel racing bike. It's also aimed at the ultra gravel racing market as well. So it's made of titanium, just like the Camino. It's got a carbon fork, so the ride is really plush. And one of the things I particularly liked about it is when I first saw it, one of the things I did was this. I did this. That for me is like the sign of a real cyclist, and I have to say I was quite impressed. The moment I sat on this bike, I felt I was back in that racing position, and the whole thing was fast and responsive, and that can be attributed to the fact that the head angle is 71.5 degrees, the back stays are only 420 millimetres, and the wheelbase is significantly shorter than that of the Camino. So the whole thing is built for racing and going fast. Now, one feature of this bike I really like is you can put in different widths of tyre. At the moment, it's got a 40mm tyre in, but it will take up to 45s. Now, as somebody who's done a World Cup gravel race and things like a Dirty Reaver, there is a case for more technical courses, or when you start to get fatigued, having a slightly wider tyre means you can go faster and stay safe, because as you get tired, that's when you make mistakes. So in the long term, you may go faster for longer. The tyres are actually WTB Volpine 40mm tyres, as I've already said. They all seem fine, and you can fit them out tubeless. Now, the wheels that it actually comes with are Alpha 700Cs. They seem fine, but you know, if this was my bike, I would probably upgrade the wheels, because I've gone to all this effort to train to go fast. I've paid all this money for this bike, and for me, I'd want to spend a bit more money on the wheels. This bike's actually set up with GRX1. So I've got a single chainring at the front, which is a 40. And on the back, it's 12 speed, large sprocket 45, and smallest is 10. Now, I know lots of people like single ring at the front for gravel. I certainly used one when I was racing cross, but if it was my bike, I'd actually have a 2x. And the reasons are mainly for this. If you get to a really steep hill, if you've got 2x, you can always pedal down. And also, it's not that often in this country I do a bit of gravel riding without going on the road as well. So that's a bit of a personal preference, really. Now, this bike's got Spitfires on. They do a more flared one, but I really quite like these, because with my hands on the hoods up like this, I feel I'm in a real good racy position, and it's easy to brake and change gear, and it just feels quite aerodynamic and comfortable. I actually used this Sonder saddle the first time I rode this bike, and I sat on it for 3 hours and it was absolutely fine. But this is probably something I'll change, but you know, I think we all have personal preferences for saddles, so, but nothing wrong with it at all. And the only other thing I haven't mentioned to you, it's actually got 3 mount points for bottles, and I think that's aimed at the ultra endurance athlete. So what do I think about the ride? Well, I think the ride is fast and super responsive. If you sit down on the saddle, you can tuck yourself in on these handlebars and absolutely hammer. The other bit I really loved is it corners really quickly as well. And you know, when you go up a hill and you just want to power over the top, you can get out the saddle and you just feel that you're really going for it. And the other bit I love is when you ride off-road, sometimes you need to re-accelerate, get out the saddle to maybe ride over a root or a little bit of a rock. And you can do that, and that felt pretty good. So the question has to be asked, Camino or Sedona? Well, if you want to do heavily loaded bike packing, you want a slightly easier ride and more relaxed position, obviously because it's got a slacker head angle, longer wheelbase, will track easier, this one, Camino. If you are somebody who likes to do a bit of lighter backpacking, race, maybe ride with mates, do a fast sportive and certainly a gravel race, this one. which one would I have? Well, I love the Camino for doing really, really super technical riding, I have to say. But for me, this is like one bike to rule them all, because in my head, I'd put road wheels on this. If I went abroad and I was putting one bike in the camper van, I could do gravel races, thin tyres, bigger tyres, up to 45 millimetres, as I've already said. And I could even do some cyclocross on this bike if that's what I chose to do. I'd like to say a really big thank you to Sonder for lending me this bike to do this review. But as always, everything I've said today about both of these bikes is always from the heart. Thanks ever so much for watching today. Don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can always buy me a coffee. You take care, and I will see you soon.